So you're trying to control your sugar. You cut out the sugar, you reduce the amount that you put in your coffee, you reduce the amount that you put in your tea, but then you hear that sweeteners will actually make these things taste sweeter, but it doesn't affect your blood sugar and it won't allow you to put on weight. But then a news article comes out saying that sweeteners cause heart disease, increased risk of death, increased risk of putting on weight, and you're confused. So I'm here to talk a little bit about that today. So if you're interested, continue watching. I'm Dr. Kim Sommerville. I'm a general practitioner and a clinical nutritionist, and I help women manage their blood sugar and their PCOS symptoms. So if you're interested in that, give me a like, subscribe, and share with somebody who may like it too. So what are sweeteners? Sweeteners are essentially compounds that help allow our foods, our drinks, even our medications to taste better, to taste sweeter, but it doesn't affect our blood sugar and it shouldn't affect our weight either. If you see foods or ice creams or beverages say 0 calorie, most of the time they're using some type of sweetener. Now, let me just start off by saying what sweeteners aren't. A lot of the times, we don't want to use white sugar and we don't want to use brown sugar, so we use other things thinking that it won't affect our blood sugar. But I'm going to put a list right here of some of the things that are just as sweet and will just cause the same amount of blood sugar spike as regular white sugar. So they are honey, agave, coconut sugar, molasses, maple syrup, white sugar, and brown sugar will all affect your blood sugar when you have them. So if you're going to have sugar in moderation, have these in moderation as well. So now I'm going to give you some names of some artificial sweeteners that you may notice in your ingredients list when you're checking them out, and they're likely going to be in your medications as well. Once you're getting liquid medication that does not taste bad, very likely you have an artificial sweetener inside. So here they are. These are some artificial sweeteners that you want to look out for. So there are aspartame, sucralose, saccharin, neotame. Some are monk fruit, stevia, xylitol, erythritol. A couple of these you'll find in your foods. A lot of the times too, even when you have beverages that have regular sugar in them, they tend to even have artificial sweeteners also, because they are sometimes 10 times or 20 times sweeter than regular sugar, even though they don't affect your glucose and they shouldn't affect your insulin when you have them. So why am I talking about sweeteners? If they're so good, they're 0 calorie, they're not gonna spike your sugar, they're not gonna affect your insulin, why is it even important to talk about? Well, what has been found recently is that a huge article came out, I'm gonna put it right here, that essentially said that one of the artificial sweeteners called erythritol was found in persons' blood, and it would increase their risk of heart disease and eventual death. Now, of course, everyone is getting a bit concerned because it's concerning. If you're taking something in or if you're using it to replace something else, and for a lot of people, non-nutritive sweeteners or artificial sweeteners are pretty common in their diet, then you're going to be afraid. You're going to be scared, especially when it was told to you that this is going to help you in your management of your prediabetes or diabetes or your PCOS. So we want to know a little bit more about that. Now, what was said was that this study was looking into what could be the increased risk factors to allow persons to have heart disease and possible death. And when they looked into the blood and tested certain compounds that were higher in persons who had heart disease, they found that when they tested this particular compound, they found that it was erythritol. And then they went on to do another study to find out if persons who consumed a lot of sweeteners like erythritol, if this compound was higher in their bloodstream. And they did also find that once you consume a lot of sweeteners such as erythritol, you're going to find a lot of it in your bloodstream. Just a note, ourselves as humans, we do produce a little bit of erythritol, but it's pretty minute. So if you're going to have a higher concentration in your blood, likely you're going to be getting it from outside. You're going to be getting it from your food or your drink or your medications. So what they did was basically correlate to say that if erythritol is high, that means you have a higher risk of getting heart disease. Now, it's difficult to really extrapolate that to the entire population. The fact is, it was a study that was about on 1,000 persons, pretty small even in consideration with everything else, and it was used to say that this compound was correlated with having heart disease. And then it was found that when you have a lot of erythritol in your diet, it increases the concentration in your bloodstream. However, this cannot be looked at as a causation per se. So correlation means that two things are happening at the same time, and causation means one thing causes the other. So it's difficult for us to really say for sure that erythritol, once you have it a lot in your diet, will definitely cause heart disease down the line. And of course, we know that a lot of other factors are necessary to have heart disease anyways. So my conclusion is we can't use this to say definitely erythritol is a problem or artificial sweeteners are a problem, because it's difficult to say. But if you do have some sort of fear, or have this may be a little bit scary for you, or you're just really not sure, the best thing to do would be to reduce sugars and sweeteners altogether. So if you like juice and sodas, sure, you may want to have a 0-calorie soda or 0-calorie juice, whatever the case may be, but reduce that amount that you normally drink. And this is something that I say on my channel a lot. If you want to reduce your weight or health in terms of your blood sugar, please reduce the amount of liquid or the amount of sweet beverages you consume, whether or not it has sugars or artificial sweeteners, because that is going to increase the risk of sugars, rather, are going to increase the risk of having heart disease or diabetes or high cholesterol down the line. So what are things that you can add into your diet to help it be a little bit sweeter, but likely not have some of these side effects that are possible with artificial sweeteners and sugars? Now, what I would normally say is if you're having any type of meal, I would say the best thing to do to sweeten your meal is to add some type of fruits. A lot of the time we see on social media that people are adding dates. Dates are very, very sweet. I'm not really for that, but I would say to add fruits like banana or berries. Berries comes with a lot of antioxidants and it comes with a lot of fibers, so I tend to add it into my porridge. So I even add it to my water to just give it a little bit of flavor rather than adding sugar per se. In teas and in other beverages or meals that you can't necessarily add fruits, I would suggest either using monk fruit or stevia as a type of artificial sweetener. Mind you, these are actually naturally derived sweeteners. And what is also said is that sometimes the artificial sweeteners that I listed before are added to the stevia and added to the monk fruit to make it even sweeter. So really, we can't necessarily get away from them altogether, especially if we're using non-nutritive sweeteners. So again, everything in moderation. If you're usually used to using a tablespoon or a teaspoon of sugar or stevia, I would say just reduce that to half, or reduce it to say half a tablespoon or half a teaspoon. Really, it's just based on you. But again, everything in moderation. And to know what moderation is for you, you can speak to a nutritionist or speak to your general practitioner who can give you some more advice on it. But don't be scared. A lot of our things are processed. A lot of our things are genetically modified as it is right now. So just eat as whole foods as possible. If you have to eat processed foods, just have them in moderation. And remember to give yourself grace. This is Dr. Kim Sommerville, Simple Summer Naturals, giving you simple nutritional advice for your daily life. Take care.